when light hits the cornea in the eye, it actually slows down. And through this light, we are being recreated with new life every single day. Nature has created this circadian clock in us that literally enable us to assign different tasks that our body is meant to perform on a daily basis for us to be feeling vibrant and radiant to different times of the day or the night within a 24-hour cycle. The primarily information that enables our circadian clock to assign those tasks come from sunlight.
Welcome to Polish Your Life. Today, we are going to talk about natural light. We're going to talk about melatonin. We're going to talk about cortisol. And most importantly, we're going to talk about a paradigm shift that is right now happening in healthcare that you as a healthcare provider or you as an individual may be really interested in. And we have an awesome collaborating partner here. I'm here with Rudy Nassif, founder of Viva Race. And I wanted to ask him a few questions, pick his brain, and share what he knows with you guys. So Rudy, welcome to Polish Your Life.
Yeah, I'm glad to be here today. Thanks, Mike.
Thank you. Thank you for coming. So let's start with that big mystery. What is the paradigm shift happening right now in healthcare?
Yeah, definitely. A lot of healthcare practitioners nowadays are shifting into a more holistic approach to wellness through a healthy diet, exercise, meditation, breathwork, and mindset. But I always tell practitioners, what if I told you that there is something else that can complete that equation? And this triggers their interest. And what I'm talking about there is light. And I think light is one of the most powerful forces that shapes and molds every aspect of our life and of our biology. Now, when I say this, people get surprised because I think one question that comes to their mind is, how could a superficial thing that simply makes vision possible shape and mold my life? And to this, I usually answer by introducing people to a very simple quantum equation that was introduced to the world by the genius Albert Einstein. E equal mc squared. And E is light, m is mass, or anything of our physical reality, and c is velocity or speed. And this equation literally means that light and matter are exactly the same thing. And when we slow light down, we create things of mass and of matter. And this means that our physical reality is but light that is vibrating at a lower speed. And this also means that we are light beings, and that everything around you at this moment, including the planet itself, come from the light and is profoundly influenced by light. Now, this is not philosophy. This is literally quantum physics. And I often ask people to ponder the beauty of this equation, because science today is telling us that through the light, when light hits the cornea in the eye, it actually slows down. And through this light, we are being recreated with new life every single day. And what this means, Mike, is that light literally creates reality. And we now know that this light is programming all of our neurotransmitters and hormones that enable us as human beings to make a model of ourselves in space and time, and to relate to ourselves, to our environment, and to others. So light literally creates reality. And we are now shifting from the old paradigm shift that is merely focused on molecules and chemicals to the new paradigm in medicine that is very focused on quantum biology, electrons and protons, and electrons and protons being subatomic light particles. And in the old paradigm shift, light is simply something superficial that makes vision possible, and we don't consider light to be something important for health. Whereas in the new paradigm shift in quantum biology, light is much more powerful and profound than we ever thought to be. And also, I think one fundamental difference between these two paradigms is that in the old paradigm, the focus has been on the nucleus as the commander for our health. And often in this model, the patient is a victim of their own genes and they're stuck within that realm. Whereas in the new paradigm, we are focusing on epigenetics and on the mitochondrial genome rather than the nucleus genome only. And this is because it has recently come to light that mitochondria plays an absolutely essential role in sensing what is going on in the environment and mediating communication between the environment and the cell. And one of the most important information that is being transmitted across the 1.5 million years of evolution is light. And this is because those mitochondria evolved to get those light waves from sunlight, which increases in intensity and in color temperature from sunrise to solar noon, just like a crescendo of a musical scale, and then start decreasing and slowly fading away, descending down in the blue and light and green light frequencies and in the intensity to transition into the darkness of the night. And this enabled our mitochondria to actually optimize its functioning in the environment to produce energy, as well as to repair themselves at night so that we can rejuvenate, heal, and wake up the following morning feeling light and ready. So to conclude with this, even though the nucleus is what carries our DNA, it is actually the mitochondria that is the we can think of it as the mediator of information between our environment and the cell, and therefore it instructs our DNA on what to do, and it influences the proteins that are coded by the DNA that affect every organ and every system in our body without changing the DNA itself.
Wow. I mean, that's so powerful, because what you're talking about is a paradigm shift in healthcare that is also serving as the very answer to why am I still not getting better? And that's the core question that we have in the group. If you are better because you tried something and it worked for you, that's amazing. But what if you tried what was recommended to you and it doesn't work? And a lot of times people are going to mention to their provider, I feel like there is something else, but they don't know what that something else is. So putting light in that context is very important, because we are talking about what you're talking about in the context of integrative health, not just in the context of light being this parallel thing that we need to consider. It is part of healthcare. Epigenetics that you mentioned, Bruce Lipton talks about it. We interviewed Dr. Porter here. Dr. Patrick Porter talks about it as well. Dr. Brad Watts. We're talking about the lifestyle and the genetics, and the genetic component is the map, but there's also something that makes us either read the map and use and activate some genes or not activate some other genes. And that is something that we can influence. And that's pretty amazing. So let's talk about it. And before we give the very valuable tips that people can do, providers in terms of treatments, and also individuals in terms of, what you can do in your everyday light, in terms of the lighting that is around you, et cetera, et cetera. I wanted you to share a little bit of the source of where this passion comes from, because you're obviously very passionate. So tell us your story. Why light? Why this is your interest right now?
Yeah, my story, Mike, began literally when I was a little kid at school. And at the time, I suffered from a lot of headaches, agitation, and inability to focus. And as a kid, my parents wanted to know what's happening in my life. So I was diagnosed as ADHD. And growing up, I literally turned into a night owl. And I stayed up very late every night, feeling super wired and stimulated, only to lack the energy, focus, and motivation the following day. And eventually, day after day, this literally led me to deep, deep depression, chronic fatigue, and complete disorientation. And it was really sabotaging my professional life as an engineer, even my relationship with my loved ones. So as you can imagine, Mike, I was very desperate, wanting to find a solution. And to be honest with you, I felt extremely tired and exhausted going from one doctor to another, and extremely overwhelmed with all the different health opinions about what I should be doing. Conventional medicine at the time told me that I should be taking prescription drugs. And thankfully, I had the awareness to refuse this. So I started on a journey of holistic medicine and started experimenting with so many different diets, you name it. I tried so many different diets and taking so many different supplements. And I was doing therapy. I was experimenting with lots of different meditation and physical exercise techniques. And while all of these things positively influenced my life, unfortunately, I was still stuck with the same cycle of feeling super wired at night and waking up feeling exhausted and completely depressed. Now, miraculously, one specific event in my life changed all of this. I spent 6 weeks on a rural farm in Quebec camping, and I was exposed only to natural sunlight during the day and fire and candlelight during the evening. Now, within a matter of 3 days, something miraculous happened. I started winding down in the evening, feeling mellow and relaxed, sleeping shortly after the sunset, to then wake up before the sunrise for the first time in my life, feeling super refreshed, rested, and energized. I literally went from feeling extremely depressed, foggy-headed, and unable to focus to feeling alive, motivated, and extremely energized. I remember that I spent my days farming outdoors, dancing, cooking, hiking, swimming in lakes, deepening my relationship with my partner, and studying a lot of books. And to be honest with you, Mike, I was able to achieve in a 24-hour period more than I would in a month. I mean, how did that magic happen? I didn't change my diet. I didn't take supplements. And I was still meditating and exercising in the same way than I was before. So this made me feel like I was in complete awe, to be honest. But unfortunately, this magic didn't last so long, because when my trip ended, I traveled back from the farm to the city. And at the time, I was still living in Toronto. And to be honest, Mike, within a matter of few weeks, I fell back again into my old terrible routine of staying up late and waking up feeling exhausted and depressed. So at this point, I was really contemplating, and I asked myself a very important question. I asked myself whether it was my light environment that could be causing all of this. And this led me to a 7-year journey where I was deeply studying quantum biology, quantum physics, circadian biology, and light. And I was consulting the world's leading expert in this field. And what I learned is something very simple, and I literally knew as a kid. And intuitively as a kid, I always wanted to escape being in the classroom under those artificial lights, and I wanted to be outside in the sun. I literally learned that we are light beings, and light, and not only light affects and molds and shapes every aspect of our life, but it's literally the nucleus of life itself. So the quality of the light that you expose yourself to will determine the quality of your sleep, focus, energy, and productivity. And the problem is that 95% of people in the modern world are getting very little exposure to healthy light, and they are bombarded by junk artificial light from devices, screens, LED bulbs in their kitchen, in their bedroom, in their everywhere you look. And this is really sabotaging our circadian biology. It's decreasing the efficiency of our mitochondria, so that with time, when these mitochondria lose efficiency, we start having less energy available in our system to carry out optimal daily functions, from thinking to creating to digesting optimally to even sleeping and healing. And this is causing a lot of problems.
Of course. And what an amazing story. And I'm glad your conclusion was to go and research it and try to find out, what exactly caused it, because otherwise you might come to a different conclusion and just be camping your whole life. And we wouldn't have all the benefits of having you in the group. So I appreciate that. And seriously, congratulations, because while we are joking, we are smiling, we are laughing about some things, it's very serious. I have met a few truly depressed people in my life, and I know that there is nothing to make fun of. This is very, very serious. Everything is affected when people are suffering like that. So being able to find a solution, or if not a complete solution, give them hope and a good path, and then that other part of the equation, I think is very, very powerful. So that is awesome. And also I'm looking around and thinking, I'm looking at the palm trees behind you, and I know where you are, man. It's awesome. And you have the natural light versus here, exactly what you tell me not to do. I have a palm tree here, but it's artificial. We have the light here, which is the LED bulbs, and surrounded by the artificial form of light that may look pretty on camera, but it's not the same. So what I'm doing, and subconsciously, I know that's what we need, is anytime there is a break, I try to get out. I try to walk, and just get that sunlight. So let's talk about clinical applications and tips, if you don't mind. So we have two types of people watching this. So we have some that are providers themselves, and that's going to be chiropractors, medical doctors, and we are all about integrating different components of healthcare into their own practice, because they can either collaborate with you or people who have solutions like that, or they can implement that in their practice as well. The second part of our audience is going to be individuals, and they may be just wondering, okay, Rudy, what should I do on my day-to-day to get better? Obviously, number one, get some true sunlight and limit the exposure to artificial light at night. Give us some tips that are for individuals, but also some tips for providers in terms of kind of like sophisticated technologies that we can use.
Yeah, definitely. That's a great question. I think anytime we're starting, we got to start thinking how we can bring back our circadian rhythm into harmony with the light and nature. And I always tell people that getting a great night's sleep on a consistent basis and waking up feeling refreshed and energized every single morning doesn't happen by chance. It literally happens by design. And this is governed by law. And this law is called the law of the circadian rhythm. Now, circadian comes from the Latin word circa, which means approximately a day or 24 hours. And this rhythm literally exists in all animals, plants, and humans. So we're not the only ones, because we all experience an unescapable daily change in our environment. And this daily change happens by law. It's very simple. The day becomes night, and the night becomes day again. And in order for us to adapt to this daily change, we have had to develop an internal clock that controls the timing of our daily functions to an optimal time of the day or the night during the 24-hour cycle. Now, this clock sits in the hypothalamus in the brain, and it's called the suprachiasmatic nucleus. And I like to refer to it as nature's technology for us in order for, so let's put it that way. Many of us today in this modern world understand the importance of using a productivity system, right? A productivity that assigns different tasks of the day for different times, because there's a time and place for everything, and we cannot be doing everything at the same time. Now, nature has created this circadian clock in us that literally enable us to assign different tasks that our body is meant to perform on a daily basis for us to be feeling vibrant and radiant to different times of the day or the night within a 24-hour cycle. And the primarily information that enables our circadian clock to assign those tasks come from sunlight, and it's regulated by the rise and the fall of the sun. Okay, so when the sun rises in the morning, we have what we call melanopsin ganglion cells in the eyes that are designed literally to track the position of sunlight in the sky throughout the whole day. So when we wake up in the morning, we go outside, those melanopsin ganglion cells get activated by the bright light coming from sunrise, and it signals to our central clock in the brain that it's daytime, that the day is starting. And as a result, the suprachiasmatic nucleus transmits thousands of messages to all of our different organs and systems to prepare us to start the day feeling awake, alert, focused, and energized. As an example for this, when light enters our eyes, the suprachiasmatic nucleus sends a signal to the adrenal gland to secrete the hormones cortisol and adrenaline. And this is literally the reason why we wake up in the morning, because just few minutes before waking up, these hormones are programmed to float in our body, and they alert us that the day is starting. So when this happens, it literally increases our body temperature. Our heart picks up few more beats per minute. Our blood pressure rises, and our muscles start tensing, preparing us to be fully ready, fully awake, and fully alert for the day. And at this particular second, when cortisol is being secreted in a healthy way, there's another cellular timer that gets programmed that will dictate when another very important hormone called melatonin will be secreted 12 to 14 hours from the moment cortisol is secreted. So getting this morning sunlight right and getting the timing of cortisol right is extremely and fundamentally important to all of our different biological processes that will happen throughout the whole day. It's literally like tuning in your clock to the clock outside so that you're living in harmony. And if you think of animals, for instance, if an animal clock starts shifting in the wrong direction, they will be transformed either to foods and being eaten by other animals, or they will miss foraging food because they gotta be in tune with the rise and the fall of sunlight in order for these animals to be able to function properly in their environment. So in a similar way, I like to think of this circadian rhythm that when we are fully in alignment with the sun, with this ball of electromagnetic radiation that fuels our life, we will be operating in what I call the HIME. And the HIME stands for high impact minimum effort. Okay, so when our body is in the zone of the HIME, it will perform 10 times better. Okay, so if we go to sleep, we're gonna sleep much deeper and we're gonna wake up much lighter. If we digest within the zone of HIME, we're gonna digest much more efficiently and much more easily. We're gonna use much less energy to perform that same task. And we all know that the principle of least action, which means the minimum of energy multiplied by the minimum of time, is, it governs everything in physics, from the movement of the planets to the movement of a pulse of light. So I think in order for us as human beings to start performing at our peak, we really need to tap into the least action and make sure that our body is performing those tasks within the window that we call the HIME, which is high impact minimum effort. And the technology that is designed to enable our body to do this is called the circadian rhythm. And in order for this technology to work properly, we got to get morning sunlight in the morning, and we got to block all artificial light in the evening. Now, why is that important? Because when you go watch the sunset, you get very important messages to your system that the day is ending, preparing you to wind down, to calm down, and all of your body start doing tasks that will prepare you for a restful night's sleep. Okay. Now, the problem is that when you come back home and you're exposed to the second sun from your LED bulbs and screens, you actually confuse your brain and your system about the time of the day. And your brain will literally think that it's 12 noon again, and will literally sabotage all of these systems and all of the hormones that will prepare your body for a restful night's sleep. And this will start shifting your circadian rhythm in the wrong direction, so that you would want to stay awake for a longer time, feeling wired and stimulated at the time when you are supposed to be healing, rejuvenating, and really taking it easy, so that you can get a restful night's sleep and wake up feeling refreshed the second morning. So to summarize, getting morning sunlight first thing in the morning, blocking artificial light after the sunset. And this could be done using, a high quality lens technology system like the Viva Rays glasses that is designed to filter out the specific wavelength of light that are disturbing to our circadian rhythm at certain times of the day.
I love that. And I like the simplicity of the message with the complexity of the positive effects that we have, right? So we are talking about really two major actions that we can do as human beings, which is number one, respect the law of the circadian rhythm, right? So and I actually read it in multiple different publication studies, heard in different podcasts, people talk about it all the time, that we need to get out. If you want to fall asleep in the evening, you need to get out in the morning to tell your body, when the day is actually starting. What you are describing here is the process that happens behind the scenes or within our body, which is the dance between hormones, right? So cortisol goes up, which is something that we stimulate. It goes up even before we wake up, which I didn't know that that's the case, but that's what was waking us up. Now we are getting out, we are telling our body that's the day, which already kind of like sets the alarm for our body to produce the adequate amount of melatonin, right, in the evening. And then we are able to fall asleep in the evening, which is great. So the simplicity of this is actually from our point of view as human beings, we just make sure that we respect the clock, the natural clock, and then we are synchronizing with that clock. We are more outside than inside. And then when we are inside and we have to use some screens, we can use the technology, like you mentioned, with Viva Rays. We can use other technologies to block certain types of sunlight. And that really sounds amazing. The curveball that I want to throw your way is what is in everybody's life very much present, which is, yes, but it's easy to say, not that easy to do. Because, for example, let's say my schedule, I'm a nurse, and I cannot follow that circadian rhythm the same way as somebody who has a more regular schedule. So that's one question that I have for you. What should people do who truly cannot, go outside at 7 a.m. or 6 a.m. to see that sunrise? The second thing would be the reality of, 21st century busy people that work online, which is a lot of people. We actually have to use these screens if we want to keep being productive. So yes, we can block certain types of lights. And I heard great things about this type of technologies. At the same time, I also heard that now there is new science that it's not just the blue light that needs to be blocked, but also something else. It's not just this, but also that. So is there any way to trick the biology or trick our system, so while we are using these devices, we are still healthy, but able to perform, what we need to perform? So let me know the answer to these two, if you don't mind. That would be really important for people to know.
Yeah, first of all, it's very important to mention that there's no real way around getting morning sunlight in the day and getting the darkness that we need at night. There's no real way around this. And in order for us,
what do you mean by real way?
I mean, there's no way around it. There's no other way around it. We cannot think that we could, do a hack or substitute it with this technology or with that technology. I mean, this is a technology that is 4.7 billion years old, and it drives every biological species on Earth. So in order for us to really work and perform and be in our zone, we really need to start thinking of new ways of doing things so that we could realign with the sun and with the sun's cycle. Now, for someone who wake up in the morning and for some reason they cannot go outside, which I couldn't think of a reason why someone cannot go outside when they wake up. But let's say this is true and someone cannot, then the second best option to activate your melanopsins in the eye is to get very bright artificial light. Okay, and you really gotta get it in your eyes for much longer, because we actually need around 100,000 lux plus of photons to activate this circadian clock in the morning, which is very different at night. And I'm gonna talk a little bit about this. But on a sunny day, blue skies, you need 10 minutes outside to get that circadian effect. Whereas if it's cloudy, you probably need 30 minutes. If it's a gloomy day, you probably need 1 hour. But in order to get that same effect from artificial light, which is not gonna be the same whatsoever, it's gonna be, it's gonna activate, it's gonna trigger the release of cortisol, it's gonna wake you up. But when we talk about quantum biology, it's not a straight line. And there's a lot of different processes to it that we need to take in consideration, because the morning sunlight that we get starts at around 2000 kelvins in color temperature, and it starts increasing in an orderly manner all the way up to 6500 kelvins around 12 noon. Now, with this increase in color temperature, there's also an increase in intensity, and the angle of the sun is also going higher in the sky. So the problem with artificial lighting is far off from being able to mitigate this. But not only this, most of the artificial lights that we expose ourselves to, they are at 6500 kelvins. And when you expose your brain to this frequency first thing in the morning, you're gonna confuse your body about thinking it's 12 noon. And what this does, it really sabotages this first 2-hour period where your body is transitioning from the theta waves to the alpha waves, and then slowly to the beta waves. And this is a very important period for us as humans to master if we expect to master creation and creativity, because it's known that it's within that period of being in the theta waves and in the alpha waves that we are more able to tap into our subconscious mind, our subconscious intelligence, and to impress the subconscious mind with the things we want to create in our life, so that we have a better control of our day, of our month, and of our year. And when we wake up out of a sudden and we look at our phone right away, or we turn on our artificial lights, we're sabotaging these frequencies of light, these frequencies of the brain, and we're going into fight and flight right away and increasing cortisol in abnormal ways. And there's the effect of increasing cortisol in abnormal ways across the whole day is very damaging. I'll touch a little bit more about this. So basically, cortisol, it's a hormone that has served us across evolution, right? Because if you would be in nature and you approach a tiger approaches you, cortisol goes high in your body and it prepares you for flight and flight mechanism so that you can escape for your life. Now, there's a scientist from Germany called Fritz Hollwich. Back in the 1970s, he published a lot of studies showing how sitting under artificial lighting all the time increases our stress hormone cortisol in abnormal ways. Now, bear in mind that cortisol at night, for instance, shouldn't be more than 1 microgram per deciliter, okay? When I first did my test, Mike, it was around 10 microgram per deciliter, which is scarily very common. 95% of our clients who take their cortisol test at night, they show that their cortisol is peaking at night. And this is very destructive. And not only it sabotages their sleep and sabotages their body's ability to heal and rejuvenate, but it also takes a toll on their morning cortisol. Because morning cortisol, as I mentioned, it should be around 16 microgram per deciliter, this healthy pulse that will enable you to wake up, feeling energized and ready for the day. And when you're continuously secreting cortisol at the wrong time of the day, and especially at night in response to artificial light, you start depleting your cortisol reserve from your adrenal, so that you wake up the following morning and you don't have enough cortisol in your system for that healthy pulse. And this is when most people wake up feeling sluggish, struggling with momentum, and needing coffee and stimulants to get going, and eventually relying on stimulants rather than tuning back into the intelligence of nature and fixing that cortisol melatonin cycle so that it's happening in harmony with nature. Will people eventually will burn out and will suffer adrenal fatigue and so many different other things.
So there is really no good way for somebody to trick the biology in this sense that, for example, if my schedule is completely off, let's say I am, a nurse, a firefighter, or, or maybe, some other professions that actually have to work at night and sleep during the day, even if they use any kind of, biohacking tools or artificial lighting, it's not going to be the same, because it could be mimicked to a certain degree, but it's not going to be exactly the same, because the body is smart and it knows that, for example, I put this you mentioned 6,500 K, right, light. But if I do it too early, my body thinks, oh my God, Mike, it's already noon, but it's not. Another thing you mentioned is the gradual change of that light color. Another thing you mentioned is the angle. That's something that I didn't think about, is that maybe, we should be putting our lights first at 2K, right? And then, gradually have that light come. But it's so hard when you look at all these factors to try to mimic it, when we probably just look at one part of that equation. And there is also a whole lot more that comes beyond the visible light that we see. So I'm happy that there are people like yourself who understand this much more than I do. And I was just hoping that there is an easy, biohack or trick that we can do. And if not, then we need to respect the law of nature and comply with it.
Yeah, we're currently, in Viva Rays, we're currently really focused on creating indoor lighting that will revolutionize the indoor industry as we know it. And the basis of it is going to be based on nature's technology. So we're trying to mimic all these different variables and dynamics and put it into a lighting system. And even with that, it's not going to be anywhere close to being tuned to sunlight. Okay. So one of the things is that nowadays in our world, we still don't have quality lighting yet. And even the color temperature is not the only thing to look at. We want to also look at the spectral distribution, which means the different frequencies that are emitted from that bulb. If you look at sunlight, it emits light frequencies all the way from UVA, UVB, to the visible colors of the rainbow, up to the infrared lighting. Okay, and if you observe a spectral curve distribution from sunlight, it's very balanced and it's very rhythmic and it's very proportionate. All of the colors balance each other out. There's a beautiful symmetry in it, which is very well needed. Now, the problem with artificial lighting that we're exposing ourselves to, it's far from being symmetrical and balanced. Most of these artificial lightings, they peak at 455 nanometer in the blue purple range, and they're very deficient in the yellow, orange, red, and infrared, even in the blue turquoise. And this is one of the reasons, for instance, why so many people sitting in front of these devices and under these artificial lights start experiencing headaches, agitation, and inability to focus during the day, because it turns out that this 455 nanometer frequency is very degenerative in nature. Now, there's nothing in nature that is degenerative without a balanced effect that will create a regenerative effect. And yellow, orange, red, and infrared in nature are regenerative, whereas blue could be degenerative. And this doesn't mean that blue is bad, because it has its own function and it's very important for our circadian rhythm, for our mood and everything. But it's also important that we expose ourselves to these colors in a balanced, proportionate manner, which artificial light is not able to do that.
Man, as you're speaking, I have a list of questions that is growing, and I want to be very respectful to our audience out there. I know one thing: I'm not alone with all these questions. I know that people may want to pick your brain, may want to ask a question, may want to talk about a specific application that is clinical. So because we have providers watching this, we also have individuals watching this. I wanted to encourage everyone watching. First of all, if you have any questions, comment below, because that's one way that we can get our questions answered. Share the video with people who maybe have that circadian rhythm, not on the friendly side, but they're just trying to combat it, and they're trying to trick nature. Maybe there are things that we can do to help them. Another thing that I wanted to mention to you is, if you are a healthcare provider and you would like to collaborate, I talked with Rudy and he said he would be very happy to have collaboration videos or educational content or collaboration structure of some sort with different healthcare providers, because this is part of integrative healthcare. So connect with Rudy. Rudy, tell our viewers where they can find you.
Yeah, definitely. So in Viva Rays, we have written an ebook. I would call it an e-booklet more than an ebook. That's called Light, the Key to Mastering Your Sleep and Energy. And it was written with the sole purpose of really simplifying the different concepts of quantum biology and circadian rhythm, and putting them together in a way that is very applicable and that is broken down into action steps that people can take today in order to start elevating their light environment to a whole new level of alignment with nature and experiencing better sleep, more energy and focus, and better productivity. So I want to invite anyone who's listening to download this e-booklet for free on our website, www.vivarays.com. I also love receiving people's question when they read the ebook, and different observation, different things that they that came through them as they were reading the ebook. So if you have any questions, whether about the conversation with Mike or about the ebook, feel free to reach to me personally on my personal email, rudy@vivarays.com. I'll share the information with Mike so that he can include them in the description of the video as well. And also, we share a lot of our educational material on our Instagram page, Viva Rays. So feel free to tune in, follow our page, and anytime you have additional questions, let us know, reach out to us. I always tell people that Viva Rays is not a company that have a mission. We're actually a mission that operates within a company. And we have a big goal to really revolutionize the indoor industry, the lighting indoor industry, and to truly elevate our light environment to a whole new level of alignment with nature. And this is not my goal. This is not Viva Rays' goal. This is our goal. And as we get into the consciousness of understanding more and more the importance of light in our lives, I think we all want healthier light for ourselves, for our loved ones, and for the future generation. And when we're doing this together, we're much more powerful. So I invite you to tune in into this mission as your mission as well, and not think that this is my mission. This is our mission as humans.
Man, thank you so much. This is very meaningful, very useful for people. It's you're giving practical tips. You are talking about things that we all need and we all know, but we know that we don't know enough about it. So it's amazing to have you as an expert. And I think you can see why I wanted to interview him and show a demonstration or a little bit of that passion present to you. Feel free to connect with Rudy. Feel free to collaborate. Also keep in mind that you may meet a lot of people. It may be your patients, it may be your neighbor, it may be your aunt, or it may be you. You go from doctor to doctor, follow recommendations, and you're still not getting better. That means that you just haven't figured this out yet, but it doesn't mean that you cannot get better. So we want to bring hope to people. We want to work together, connect patients, providers, and promote integrative healthcare model, because this is what life is about. We need to be able to enjoy the life, and we cannot enjoy the life when health limits us. Health should allow us to experience life fully, life and light fully. So Rudy, once again, thank you so much. Wishing everybody a wonderful day. Ask questions in comments, subscribe to our podcast on YouTube. If you're watching on YouTube, follow on other platforms, and do it because we have amazing guests like Rudy. All the best, guys. Take care. Bye.